Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I am the president of ACEDS. Today, we will be joined shortly by Jonathan Flood, who is the Senior Director of Data Automation at HaystackID. Jonathan's been working and consulting in the legal industry for more than 15 years, providing e-discovery, legal technology support, forensics, operational services, among other things. We're going to get into his background a little bit in a moment. But before we get started, I should note that Haystack, of course, is a professional services organization that provides e-discovery, information governance, and cybersecurity services throughout the legal industry. You can visit HaystackID.com to learn more about their offerings. Haystack, of course, is also a valued partner of ACEDS, and we like to showcase what's going on with our partners and in the e-discovery community and talk with industry experts like Jonathan to discuss the latest trends and happenings in the industry. So let's get into it. Jonathan, thank you for making time to join us today.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
I always like to start with a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your career journey, and how you found yourself working in what we call the e-discovery industry.
Yeah, I think probably not dissimilar to many people in this industry. I kind of just fell into it, right? There was no official route to get into e-discovery, certainly not in Ireland back in the...
It was an accident.
It truly wasn't. I took a job as a data entry person in a law firm that turned out to be essentially managing the summation enterprise platform for one of the largest law firms in Ireland at the time. And that was kind of a trial by fire. Here you go. Here's a platform you've never seen before in an industry you've never heard of, doing stuff you've never experienced for a load of lawyers and support folks. So it was kind of a very interesting couple of years for me learning what this was all about, and very little on the market to learn from, right? There is no gold standard. There was no gold standard back then. So very much a drop in the ocean for me. I had to learn to swim.
Entirely appropriate, because for our listeners today, I'm sitting here just outside New York City, and Jonathan's in Dublin, Ireland. So we're really traversing the universe here. Tell me, Jonathan, your title is curious to me. What does someone with the word automation in their title, what does someone with that word in their title do?
That's a great question. This has been an evolution for the past probably 5 years. I'm one of those probably quite frustrating colleagues to have at times, because I very quickly want to find ways of doing stuff better. And you work with people who do things for a number of years a particular way, and then I come in, I'm like, whoa, we can do this better, we can change this, and we can tweak the process, we can make it more efficient, we can get more out of we can get more gigs per hour, we can get better quality, whatever the comparison or the metric might be. I think we can get more, right? So I've always had this perspective of constant evolution, constant efficiency in the process, really, and that has lended itself really well towards me kind of etching out this career of beginning to design and build automations for the operations department at Haystack. And I did that originally at Night Owl. Obviously, we were acquired by Haystack in 2020. And about, I think, summer 22, we decided to make that the official team. So we started off with me being the owner of the automation department, and we were already building automations using various platforms inside of our processing tools and review tools, and kind of just pulling them all together to make sure we understood it holistically and understood how the process worked across the whole operation. So now, got a growing team, number of people, growing every year. We've got more people, more projects, more plans, and automation is kind of really at the heart of what drives, I think, this industry in general now, not just the core e-discovery services, but everything left and right of that, information governance, forensics. If there aren't some elements of automation attached to the process, I think it's just, unfortunately, it's inefficient, and it's probably going to cost you more than your competitors, or cost more for the customers. So we're driving efficiency and cost down for customers.
And that makes perfect sense to me, and should to e-discovery practitioners. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of project management, and one of the foundations there is driving efficiency. So automation, when you factor in some of the advancements in technology and artificial intelligence, like automation is like right there. So really cool stuff to be working on. And I'm jealous in a way. I kind of miss those days when I used to get to sit and think and look at problems and figure out how to do things better. But okay, so you are, I would sort of categorize you as an EU-centric technologist, and you support services, obviously, globally for Haystack. How do you approach data management and privacy differently when you take into account, some of the regulatory framework in the US, in the EU versus the US, and sort of the broader legal global landscape?
Yeah, I think that frames kind of perfectly why automation is really important. So Tim, and this kind of goes back to the early days when I started learning how to do forensics. Was one of the first things I started to take seriously in the industry. As I did a master's in digital forensics and went through the whole process of learning, why the forensics method was best, and I equate that kind of mindset here too. The idea that there's a way of doing things properly, and whether it's the EU or the US, or particular regulatory bodies or whatever industry you're in, there's a pretty good trend there about how things are done properly. And if you try and meet the criminal standard or the best practice across all industries, then you kind of meet the standard across any industry, right? So we build our processes, we build all of the individual automations, we build them to a standard that we would expect anyone to want from us. So when we say we meet the EU standard, it doesn't matter. The GDPR requirement is that we don't ship PII across the pond without it going through rigorous processes. But we just apply those processes at every step of the way, no matter whether it's the US or the EU, or whether it's an investigation, or whether it's an e-discovery, or whatever the data type might be. We are applying the appropriate processes kind of at all stages, if that makes sense. So you kind of end up having to be a generalist when you're coming from, or you're dealing with global services. You really got to make sure that you're kind of hitting all the notes all the time.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But let me ask you this. We know the regulatory frameworks have changed, frankly, all over the world. How have client needs evolved, and how does data automation help address those changing needs?
I think there's two sides to this. We still have some clients who still want to hold on to I won't call it the legacy mechanism, but it's certainly an older way of thinking from my perspective. Is they want to have data inside of a system that we own in our data center. So we have a number of those instances still exist. We have processing data centers all around the world. We have hosting review centers all around the world, and a client need for us needs to be met in every single circumstance. So if we want to be able to receive data in an automated fashion and push it into a review platform in an automated fashion, it needs to do that no matter what the client demand is, whether that's on-prem, on client site, in our cloud, in a SaaS provider's cloud. So we build the automations to be as platform agnostic as possible. Not always the case. We've got to have tweaks and changes made to certain workflows. But that's how we try and address every need, is we make the workflows and the automations as configurable and as open as possible. And then, if we need to change review platform or change processing platform or do something different, it's a matter of changing a step in the workflow, not rebuilding the entire environment. So it's a kind of a philosophy of design more so than a client demand need.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, working with, international organizations, corporations, clients, law firms to sort of navigate some of the legal and the compliance challenges? How do you customize automated solutions to meet what I imagine are individual or unique client regulatory and operational requirements in all these different regions? How do you sort of create something that's generic, flexible, and scalable enough to be used in all the different environments that are out there?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and some of it is some of it's, I would call, it's not IP in the same in the traditional sense, but it is there's a certain secret sauce to some of these workflows, right? Our team has decades of experience of handling various different types of projects, and we've kind of pulled on all those experience threads and pulled together what we think is a template that meets almost all those needs. Some of those field names might need to be changed, or we need to be able to have a slightly different flavor of something. But it all comes down to a configuration more so than a one size fits all. It is a one size fits all environment because we made it so configurable that anyone can use it for any purpose. So the configuration may make something look a little bit different for a legal client versus an investigations client, or a project where we know it's a post breach analysis, or there's some PII layer to the project. These things are just features that are part of the system. So if we need to use it, we can add it in. If we know it's part of the configuration, we just make it part of that particular client's experience. And so what we've built is really kind of a build-a-bear situation, where you want to come to us for a particular type of project, but you have a specific configuration. We can almost always cater for that. Sometimes we need to build some new steps or make some tweaks or make some additions, but it's really in the design philosophy that we built something way back in the beginning when we started making automated processes back in 2017. I think we started the first one. That was like 8 steps. We just automated processing, right? And then we've grown it out over the last number of years, and all those steps have grown to build something that is eminently configurable. And that's why we are seeing a lot of clients come to us and really like what we're doing, because a lot of the processes out there tend to be very rigid, and someone can come to us and we can kind of build a tailored experience. It's based on templates and it's based on repeatable processes, but it gives you a customized experience that everybody can really get behind. And because it's all quality controlled, and because the automated process is there to deliver that level of quality, it gets a lot of interest from anyone who's trying to build, or certainly have many different types of matters inside the same ecosystem.
Yeah, I was going to ask you for an example, and you mentioned processing. I think that's the perfect example, right? Because you need to do sort of the same things there, no matter where you are, frankly. So automation there can be really valuable. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. You just presented at the NUX XLR8 conference in London, sharing your insights on automation. What would you say were the highlights in terms of what you learned, or what others might learn from your presentation on this topic, and how they apply to clients looking to enhance their data management and automation processes?
Yeah, it was a great conference. A lot of really interesting topics there. Obviously, AI has been at the heart of all of our discussions for the last, feels like 5 years. It's only been a couple of years, but it feels like it's been the topic du jour for such a long time. Some really interesting use cases. We're seeing a maturity is starting to come to the market now, where we're seeing a number of products on the market that are addressing specific needs and doing it in a reasonable time and a reasonable price. NUX has a lot of great products that they've launched recently under the Neo heading. We've obviously been a NUX partner, a NUX user for a long time, and a lot of the automations have come from my experience across the NUX stack for a very long time. I think the key takeaways really is that what we're driving towards, regardless of whether it's NUX or any other platform out there, we are continuing to see a large uptick in the volume of data, not necessarily the quality of data. We're seeing a continuous increase in the volume of data. And we've been telling the same story, right, for years. I've been doing talks and having fireside chats and presentations talking about moving left for years, like having a better IG policy, having a better understanding of your data at source, and all these regulatory driven sort of data understanding mechanisms. And I think what's really being hammered home here is that we have so much data when it gets to the point of investigation. We really need to be doing a better job of everything that's left, everything that's IG or GRC or data classification, whatever it might be. And whilst we can do all these things in the platforms, we can have, you know, almost real-time data classification during processing. We can have all semantic learning. We can have GPT style data understanding, summarization, whatever you want to call it, you know, ask questions about the documents. That's really late in the process. That's like at the end of the process. We're really, really interested in how we can see both happening, because we're going to have to really leverage the IG tools to pull out the really interesting data that's being classified for the purposes of an investigation or a legal matter or whatever it might be, and then really drill down into them with the maturing AI products that we're starting to see come to market. And I really had a good time talking to both the Nuix folks and customers and partners at the event, because you get to see all the different perspectives. There's a lot of investigators, a lot of regulatory people who use Nuix as well. And seeing it from all perspectives is really valuable. So I had a really good couple of days at the Nuix conference.
Yeah, and they're a great partner of ours. And I just you touched on something, and I hate to let an opportunity go by, because one of my broken record sayings is information governance is the foundation of e-discovery. And I say that every chance I get, because it's such an important proposition in the work that we do. If you don't know where the data is, how it's secured, how to get to it, who owns it, I mean, that just makes e-discovery and everything that flows from it so much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I saw a LinkedIn post in which you referred to AI as automating intelligently. I want to unpack that a little bit, because that obviously runs contrary to some of the thoughts out there. Where do you see the differentiation in use cases for automation and AI? And is there a way that they can complement or supplement each other, coexist together, automation and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I mean, the title was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek reference to both, right? The real AI is automating intelligently. That was the heading. I don't really think we can separate them. I think they're fundamentally the same thing to some degree. Obviously, automation itself is not artificial intelligence. It is a predetermined set of steps. But
it's a process.
You're just building a repeatable process. But if your repeatable process is like we've built, it is, you know, configurable in an infinite number of ways, and can build itself, and can understand context based on, you know, quality control steps that you've done before. It's not quite machine learning. It's not quite actual AI, but we are approaching something of a, you know, not intelligent workflow, but a workflow that has predictability and some level of intelligence to it. So I had a fun conversation with Daniel Botanu, who was the Rampiva designer, was the CEO of Rampiva and is now part of the Nuix team. And I've worked with him since the very beginning, and Rampiva has been a huge accelerator for automation for us. And that was kind of our whole discussion topic, is automating intelligently is a very easy, you know, rather than trying to bite off a massive AI conversation and try to convince your company to start using AI in a bunch of ways, it's very easy to get people to get behind automation. And automation can achieve a huge amount of what AI can, but there's a lot of, you know, a lot of discussion that needs to be had around those products and how you're going to fit it in and how you control it and how you protect the company from the result of AI and protect your colleagues and staff from what AI might start to do. You know, it has a lot of potential danger to it, right? And that was one of the topics that we heard at the Accelerate conferences about, you know, developing AI in a responsible way and making sure that we don't damage all the things that we've spent years building. Yeah. I think there's a real potential to not undo the good work, but to really make things more complicated than they need to be. And automation is a very, I don't call it simple, but it's a very easy to grasp single process that you can apply to any industry, to any operation, any business process can be automated to some extent. And that doesn't mean, by the way, getting rid of people. That's kind of the biggest question I've always had from colleagues is like, is this going to get rid of somebody over here or over there? And in reality, if you're good at what you do, and I don't mean me, I mean the business is good at what they do. If you automate something, it just makes those people available for something else that they're better at or can learn a different skill set. So automating intelligently, I think it drives business growth. It drives your staff morale. It drives team intelligence. You get to share knowledge because you spend so much time. If you automate a process, you have to really understand it. You can't just automate random things. You got to define exactly what you're going to automate and work on making sure you do it correctly. So there's a lot of knowledge sharing that happens to build good automation, and you end up with a very tight knit team, and you end up being able to deliver more work. So at the pointed end of this, automating intelligently is a way to grow your business, and it's a way to grow your team and drive morale, drive pretty much every positive thing you can think of in a business.
Well said. Well said. So you mentioned knowledge sharing, and it's my understanding that you do some teaching on topics like forensics and e-discovery. How do you approach your sharing your expertise with students, and what do you find most rewarding about passing on your knowledge in our industry?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think I did lecture for a while. I don't do it currently. It is a pretty large time commitment. I have 2 young kids, so my spare time has been evaporated a little bit over the last few years. But when I did do the digital forensics course, I was lecturing in a couple of different places. First of all, it's immensely rewarding just helping people learn something they don't know and showing them how it's done. Being able to watch somebody learn a new topic and then demonstrate that they've picked it up to a reasonable standard is just gratifying, I think, for anybody. I always have valued teachers and any sort of educational presence that anybody had in my life. I've always found extremely rewarding. So I've always tried to maintain that level of mentorship as well as I've grown in my career. So I want to make sure that, from a leadership perspective, you can pass down your knowledge to anybody. So we have mentorship, sort of not classes inside a Haystack, but we have a mentor-mentee program. So you can, build teams of people who can share specific knowledge. So you might have like a technical mentor-menteeship, or you might have a soft skills one, or whatever it might be. But it is very rewarding as a thing. So I would urge anybody who has a skill set and is able to communicate with people. It also helps you communicate better, right? You have to learn to speak to people and communicate your ideas in a way that they can understand. So it's a very good mechanism for somebody to grow their own skill sets, and certainly help everybody else learn from a topic, assuming you know what you're talking about, which is that's number one. Obviously, you want to pass on good information. So it does help that, though, right? You explain something, or you have to learn how to explain something in a way that everyone can understand. And sometimes you realize, actually, I don't know this well enough. If I can't describe this to a 5-year-old, I don't know it, do I?
Yeah.
If I can't explain something that fundamentally. So it really helps you look at yourself as well and understand what it is that you actually understand.
It's very humbling. It's very humbling.
Yeah, I had a great time, and I will get back to it again once I get a bit more time back.
No, it's part of why I do what I do. The reward, the knowledge that knowing someone that I knew 25 years ago as a young person, that I helped get started or taught something, or even in the classes I currently teach, to watch these people grow and blossom and build careers. It's just fascinating to watch happen. All right, we're almost out of time, but what's next for you and the automation team? Any new exciting initiatives coming down the road at HaystackID?
Yes, lots and lots.
What can you share? Don't give away any trade secrets, but
yeah, some of this is not quite trade secrets, but they're things that have been partially announced. But something that we have been offering for quite a while is a self-service platform, like having customers have the ability to just kind of use all of our platforms themselves, and if they need help, they can call us. But it's a trend that we see. Obviously, people want to be able to do more themselves. And as we automate more and more of the distinct parts of the process, we can kind of deliver certain aspects of it to a well-trained client who understands how to use or what the danger is of using a particular automation. But we can essentially offer somewhat end-to-end processes for certain types of customers. And as we grow that, we're starting to productize it, and we will be kind of formalizing the idea of a platform that people are able to engage with. And we already have a number of customers who do this to some of the customers we have are kind of just using the very basic automation of being able to provide data to us that goes through processing. But we also have more broad automation services, which will touch on, being able to collect data directly from Purview, being able to collect data directly from Google, placing somebody on hold. An example thing we have shown to people before is placing somebody on hold and having it automatically collect the data, process it, push it into Relativity for review, provide your batching, all the kind of downstream stuff that really takes time away from somebody who just wants to get a review going and they're spending time training their review team. So there's an awful lot of automation development hours going into perfecting the processes that we already can do really well. We're just making sure that they're really bulletproof so that we can deliver them more broadly, and then focus on some of the newer data types that are really causing problems. Like we're seeing a ton more mobile data than we have ever seen before.
Yeah.
And we've had phones recently, where somebody has 20 million Telegram messages. And how you deal with that inside of an automated platform, there's always going to be things that are throwing curveballs and things that are a bit more complicated. So we're really just honing the automation more and more. You will start to see some announcements from Haystack around that, and see where we're trying to offer really good, valuable automation to our customers at various levels, various different products. So it's exciting. I said the team's growing. We are putting a lot of effort into building something that is really well supported, really easy to take on, really easy to scale. That's one of the things that we've kind of heard from customers is you want to be able to take a case with us that's small, that you do yourself, but if it explodes and becomes a massive matter that you can't control, we'll just take it for you and continue the process. So it's kind of seamless, scalable e-discovery or investigations or whatever you want to call it as a service. You can just consume it from us.
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in empowering people, and this sounds like that's exactly what you're doing by letting people literally serve themselves. It's I love it. It's a great initiative. All right, how do listeners get in touch, Jonathan, if they want to reach out to you?
So if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, you can find me attached to you'll see my link on the announcement for this video. You'll also contact me at jflood@HaystackID.com. We've got other contact details on the website as well. So if you want to just take a look at the website, see what we offer service-wise, you can find there's a whole bunch of different ways of getting in touch. But if you want to message me on LinkedIn, I'll get right back to you.
Awesome. This has been great. Jonathan, thanks for making the time. Thank you, Haystack. Thank you to the ACEDS team for putting this together. Everyone, if you are interested in our short form video interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and our We Are ACEDS live streams in your LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook feeds, or check out the ACEDS YouTube channel where you can watch previous interviews. Thanks so much for joining us today. Everyone, have a great day and be kind to one another.